hey, I know it's the same day, but that chapter was super short, and this next chapter is super short, so I figured I'd just do them both in the same day, get a little more progress in on this, so you might not have to wait between chapters too long. Okay, this is chapter 3 of The Unexpected Dragon. At first, I panicked, backing away from the bed till I was brought up short by the wall and then sinking to my knees and covering my head with my arms, rocking back and forth and keening loudly. I felt as if I had been simultaneously kicked in the stomach and bashed over the head. She couldn't be dead. She couldn't. She couldn't leave me all alone like this. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't cope. Oh, Mama, come back. I won't ever be naughty again. I promise. I'll work twice as hard. I'll never leave you. I didn't mean to upset you. My eyes were near half shut with tears. My nose was running. I was dribbling. But gradually it seemed as though a little voice was trying to be heard in my head, and my sobs subsided as I tried to listen. All at once the voice was quite plain, sharp and clear and scolding, like Mama's, but not in sentences, just odd words and phrases. Pull yourself together. Things to be done. Tell them. Of course, things couldn't just be left. I wiped my face, took one more look just to be sure, then ran fast as I could back to the village. Luckily, the first man I saw was the apothecary. As shocked as a man could be, he hurried back with me to confirm my fears. He examined Mama perfunctorily, asked if she had complained of pains in the chest, and shook his head as I described her symptoms this morning, as best I could for the stitch in my side for running. Massive heart attack. Pains were a warning. Must have hit her all at once. She wouldn't have known a thing. Indeed, now that I had lit a candle for his examination, I could see her face held a look of surprise, as though death had just walked in without knocking. We'll tell the others. Expect us later. Expect us later? What? But then the voice in my head took over again. Decisions. Burial. Prepare. Food. Of course, they would all come to view the body, decide how and when she should be buried, and would expect the courtesy of food and drink. What to do first? Cold. Water. The fire was nearly out and there was a chill in the room. For an absurd moment, I almost apologized to Mama for the cold, then pulled myself together and with an economy born of long familiarity, rekindled the ashes, brought in the driest logs and set the largest cauldron on for hot water. With bright flames now illuminating the room, I checked the food. A large pie and a half should be enough, with some of the goat smoked cheese and yesterday's loaf set to crisp on the hearth. There were just enough bowls and platters to go round, but only 2 mugs. I could put milk into a flagon and what wine we had left into a jug, and they could pass those around. Seating was a problem. The stools in Mama's chair would accommodate 3, and perhaps 2 could perch on the table or the chest. The rest would have to stand. Hi. The water was now finger hot, and I turned to the most important task of all. Crossing to Mama's clothes chest, I pulled out her best robe, the red one, edged with coney fur, and her newest shift, the silk one with gold ribbons at neck and sleeve, and fine linen sheet that would be her shroud. The heat from the fire, which had me sweating like a pig, had relaxed her muscles, so it was an easy enough task to wash her, change the death-soiled sheets, pad all of her orifices, and dress her in her best. That done, I combed and plaited her hair and arranged it in coils around her head, but I was distressed to see that the gray streaks would show once I had the candles burning around the bed. She would never forgive me for that. Then I remembered my inks. A little smoothed across my fingers, and no one would notice. I crumbled dried rosemary and lavender between the folds of her dress for sweetness. Then went outside and burned the soiled sheets around the dress she had been wearing when she died. Outside it was quite cool, the sun saying nearer 4 than 3, and the smoke from the bonfire rising thin and straight. It was light frost tonight, I thought. On the way back in, I gathered some late daisies and a few flowers of the yellow marigold, and placed them in Mama's folded hands. Then set the best beeswax candles in the few holders we had around the bed, ready to light once it got dark. Did you not try to eat the book? Here's a view of the cat. I looked at her once more to see all was as she wished, and to my amazement saw that death had given her back her youth. Gone were the frown lines, the pinched mouth, the wrinkles at the corner of her eyes. She looked as if she was sleeping, her face calm and smooth. And the candle I held flickered as though she were smiling. She was so beautiful I wanted to cry again. Enough. Late. Tidy up. Wash and change. Cat. I heeded the voice, that was so like hers, but it couldn't be, could it? And a half hour later or so I had swept out and tidied, washed myself in the rest of the water, including my hair and my filthy clothes, hanging out the ladder to dry over the hedge by the chicken run, and had changed into my other shift in my winter dress. Mama would be proud of my industriousness, I thought. There was no time for further tears, for I could hear the tramp of feet down the lane. My mother's clients come to pay their last respects. Suddenly the room, which was comfortably roomy for Mama and me, had shrunk to a hulk and shuffle of too many bodies with scarce space to move. The only part they avoided was the bed. They had all come. Mayor, miller, clerk, butcher, tailor, forester, carpenter, thatcher, basket-maker, apothecary, all at one time, my mother's regular customers. The new priest was the only odd one out. Don't mess with my feet. In spite of their common interest, I noticed how they avoided looking at one another. At last, after much coughing, scratching, and picking of noses, the mayor stepped forward and everything went as quiet as if someone had shut a door. Yes, this is a sad occasion, very sad. He shook his head solemnly, and the rest of them did likewise, or nodded as they thought fit. We are here to mourn the passing of someone who was... Okay, you're stepping on the pages. With whom we shared a common interest? Suggested the clerk. Why, yes, of course. Very neatly put. As I was saying, Mistress Margaret here. Margaret. Isabella, said the miller. Not Isabella, said the butcher. Susan. Elizabeth, said the clerk, or Bess for short. I thought she was Alice, said the tailor. Maud, for sure. No, Ellen. I'm sure she said Mary. Catherine. Suki. I stared at them in bewilderment. It didn't seem as though they were talking about her at all. How could she have possibly been 10 different people? Then, like an echo, came my mama's voice. In my position, I have to be all things to all men, my daughter. The mayor turned to me. What was your mother's real name? I shrugged my shoulders helplessly. I never asked her. To me, she was just Mama. I would not cry. Well, said the priest snappily, you'll have to decide on something if I'm to bury her tomorrow morning. At first light, you said? They had obviously been discussing it on the way here. It would be more discreet, said the mayor. Less fuss, the better, I say. Aye, said the butcher. What's over is over. What I want to know is, said the priest, who is paying? They all looked at me. I shook my head. I knew there were a few coins for essentials in Mama's box, but not near enough to pay for a burial and mass. I don't think she ever thought about dying, I said. This was true. Death had never been a part of our conversations. She had been so full of life, and living there had been no room for death. Thought about it for a moment more, and then I knew what she would have said. I believe she would have trusted you, all of you, to share her dying as you shared her living. I could see they didn't like it, but they were grudging nods of assent. What about a sin-eater? Said the priest suddenly. She died unshriven. Masses for a year and a day might do it, but more money. Oh, there isn't one hereabouts, said the mayor worriedly. I suppose if we could find someone willing, we would have to find a few more coins, but I'll do it, I said. She was my mother. I couldn't leave her in purgatory for a year, even if I was scared to death of the burden. What do I do? No one seemed very sure of this, not even the priest. In the end, he suggested I take a hunk of bread, place it on my mother's chest, and pray for her sins to pass from one to the other. Then I had to eat the bread. It near choked me, and once I had forced it down, I was assailed by the most intolerable sense of burdening, as though I had been squashed head down in a small box after eating too much. They watched me with interest. Is it working? Said the priest. Yes, I gasped, and I begged him for absolution. Excellent, said the priest, looking relieved. We shall repair to the church, choose the burial site, and you may confess your mother's sins, and I shall absolve her. It was cold inside the church, for the sun was now gone, and twilight shrouded the altar, mercifully hiding the mural of the Day of Judgment, which, faded as though it was, always gave me nightmares. To be sure, there were the righteous rising in their underwear to heaven, but the unknown artist had an inspired brush with the damned, their mouths open on silent screams as they tumbled towards the flames, poked and prodded by the demons of the devil. The priest led me through Mama's confession. It was very strange, confessing really unknown sins for someone else, and he told me to confess to absolutely everything. Just in case. Some of those sins he prompted me with I had never even heard of. Now you may either say 1,000 Hail Marys in expiation, or perhaps find it more convenient to make a small donation, he said hopefully. As it happened, I had the change from buying the salt still tied around my waist in my special purse pocket, so he gave me a hurried full absolution to our mutual satisfaction. Immediately, it seemed as though the dreadful heaviness left me, like shucking off a heavy load of firewood after a long tramp home. Now Mama could ascend to heaven happily with the rest of the righteous. We came out into a dusky churchyard, and I found the others grouped into the far corner of the wall. This'll do, said the mayor, next to the rubbish dump. It'll take less digging, and is nicely screened from view. Why, you should even scratch the date of the death on the wall behind. Pity she couldn't lie next to your father, girl, but of course his bones were tossed to the pigs long ago. My father? I could not believe what I was hearing. My father had been driven away by jealous villagers and dared not return. My mother had told me so. Of course. Led us a merry chase, but we caught him about 2 miles into the forest, and she doesn't know, interrupted the miller, glancing at my face. Happened her mama told her something different. He glanced at the others. No point in bringing it up now. I could feel something crumbling inside me, just like the hopeful dams I had built as a child across the stream, only to see them crumble with the first rains. I had cherished for years the vision of a handsome soldier father forced to leave his only love, my beautiful mother, and now they were trying to say, "Tell me!" I shrieked, the anger and bewilderment escaping me like air from a pricked bladder, surprising them and myself so much that we all jumped apart as though someone had just tossed a snake into our midst. So they told me, in fits and starts, apologetically, belligerently, defiantly. At first it was just as Mama had related it. There had been fever in the village, the stranger had sought refuge at our cottage, and they had enjoyed their secret idyll. Then, everything had gone wrong. Houses left empty by fever deaths had been looted, and they reasoned no one in the village could ever have been responsible. They had searched farther afield and had found some of the bulkier objects hidden in a sack at the rear of our dwelling. My father had run. They had pursued him into the forest, where a lucky arrow brought him down. Although he was dead, they had a ceremonial hanging in the village. Then they chopped him in pieces and threw the pieces to the pigs. So the man whose memory I had cherished, the father whom my imagination had made taller, handsomer, and braver than anyone in the world, was nothing more than a common thief. I don't believe you, any of you. You're all lying, and just because Mama isn't here, you're... I burst into tears, but I knew they were telling the truth. They had no reason to lie. Not after all this time. But the anger and frustration went out, so I switched to another hurt. I won't have Mama buried next to the midden. She must have a proper plot, a proper marker, a decent service and committal, just as she deserves. Now listen here, girl, interrupted the butcher angrily. Don't you realize we have to pay for all this? Now your ma's dead. You have nothing. You are nothing. Of all the ungrateful hussies. Easy, Seth, said the clerk. She's upset. None of this is her fault. It's up to us to do the best for... I'm sorry, girl, I don't remember your name. My name? Yes, said the tailor. Always just called you girl, as your mother did. There were nods, murmurs of confirmation from the others. Well, said the priest. I stared at them aghast. I could feel myself falling. I haven't the faintest idea, I croaked. Then everything went black. So that was chapter 3. We got through chapter 1 took about 20 minutes, but those two were quite a bit shorter. But I hope you enjoyed them, and I'll see you next time on Joe's Reading Circle. Bye.